was training, Pete.
Okay, a few business items before we get to Henry's presentation. Upcoming speakers, so next week, Tom, Rick Lincoln, Tom, you're in a different spot today. So, yes, Rick Lincoln from Generac.
Correct.
And then the following week, Kelly Anello is bringing Karen Good from Camp Timberley. So we'll hear more about the camp. A couple of grant updates. I'll go current year first. So Mark is spearheading. Last night, let me take one step back. Last night we had a Rotary board meeting, and we tentatively agreed that we're going to move forward with an idea for 2025 grant, and I'll let Mark explain just a little brief description of what we are planning.
Sure. This past year, we, for a district grant, we hosted an AODA conference with Vin Baker, an assistant coach with Milwaukee Bucks at Brook Life Church. This next year, we're looking at supporting Guatemala service projects. We've supported them in the past. Matter of fact, several years ago, Rick went ahead and went around different clubs and got money for water filters. So we went down there and distributed 50 some water filters. I'm going to try to see if the board approved that we could do that again, apply for a $3,000 grant through the district with some matching funds. I want to see if we can get the Whitlow Park Rotary Club and the Economawalk Rotary Club involved in a joint effort to get more water filters and high efficient stoves for the mine people in Mukwonago, Guatemala. So more to come on that.
Yep, and that fits nicely. One of the 7 areas of focus for the Rotary is providing fresh water. So it certainly fits with our mission. So thank you, Mark, for that. 2024 grant update. The committee will meet next Thursday at 8:05 right here. And where's Ken? Oh, there you are. And so we're good for that?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. And then we have a 2023 grant update. So Diana, we're glad you're here. As you know, in 2023, we had worked with the village to purchase some burlap bulb trees.
Oh, yeah.
And we helped to plant several of those with Ron and his crew. And we also have a donation as part of that grant from the club of $3,000 to purchase some bare root trees. And I think the plan was to plant some of those on Arbor Day, which I believe is April 25 of 2025. And so I don't know if Ron is still planning to do that, but we'd certainly like to help if possible. Yes. So we have a check for you for $3,000 to cover the cost of those bare root trees. So thank you for partnering with us. And hopefully that's going to help replace some of the damage done by the emerald ash borer. Yeah. So thanks. We have some pancake breakfast tickets. And so Charlie got some tickets from Doug Bruns and the Mukwonago Catastrophic Fund. Their breakfast is coming up on Saturday, April 5th. And because of the Rotary's donation from the Jack-o'-lantern Jaunt, are we an official sponsor of the?
Yes, we're still going to be listed on all their literature as a sponsor of the pancake breakfast, but he didn't feel it was necessary for us to pay a fee this year because we did so much before. But they'll be back next year, he said.
Never played 1 year though. We haven't paid for 100 years in advance, right?
So we have 10 tickets. And again, Saturday, April 5 from 8 to 11 a.m. And the pancake breakfast is at St. James Catholic Church in the gym. So, Greg, are you offering to take the tickets?
Well, what I was going to say is anyone here that wants a ticket, take a ticket. And if you have leftover at the end of the meeting, we'll take them over to the Mukwonago food pantry.
Oh, wonderful.
And I know that Hamp will, Cindy always was able to use them. So
Okay.
they can distribute them for their people.
Okay.
If that's fine.
So again, we have 10 tickets. So if you would like to go to the pancake breakfast on April 5, come on up and grab some tickets. let's see, scholarship committee. So I sent out the information about the scholarships. And I know that the list of candidates is a little cumbersome. And so Tom, I got your email, and I think if you print it out on an 11 by 17 sheet, it's gonna be great. I don't know if we have an 11 by 17.
With strong cheaters?
I can print it.
Yeah, I'll get it printed out,
I-
I'll
Okay.
tape it together or something.
All right.
It is hard to follow across. but-
It is,
Rolling.
and that's that's the document that they provide every year. And I know at the high school, they have printers and copiers that print out those sheets. That I've done it myself before.
I might have some of that paper that's all connected, I might be able to run through.
That's always also an option. But thank you, everybody, for those of you who are helping out with the scholarship selection. Pro Health Cancer Walk on May 3rd. We're still looking for participants. And then any other updates? What have I missed? What have I missed? Mark?
Sean, I just have one announcement. There's a gentleman from the Elmbrook Rotary Club, Mike Hogan, and he helps to run the Women's Center in Waukesha, just north of Drill University. For April 5th, they have a brush cleanup. He's looking for people to help remove some brush and cut down some bushes along this fence line. The hours are from 9 o'clock till noon. If you have a small chainsaw, shears, loppers, or other tools, please bring them along. So I'll get some information out, email to folks if you're interested, but the more people that are there, the faster it'll go. So he's just looking for some help. Give it some brush.
That's a Saturday with.
Saturday, April 5th from 9 till noon.
So eat some pancakes and then go clean up.
Head out to the,
That would be good.
any other business items? If not, Jerry, could we do happy finds?
Yeah, go. Well, you know, the bird was chirping this morning. First day I noticed that.
They were.
Anybody this morning? You happy fine? All right. Oh, well, never guess, pull a ticket. You could pull a winning ticket. Read the last three numbers.
100.
All right, thank you, Henry.
He has the ticket.
I have the ticket, but
These
I'll
are
do-
typically rigged.
I appreciate that. But I'll donate the money back, Jerry. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Rick, if you want to come on up and introduce Henry, that would be wonderful.
That'd be great. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Today I'm privileged to have as our guest speaker, Mr. Henry Hecker. Henry and his wife Diane are residents of the Mukwonago area since 2005. Henry is a graduate from UW Milwaukee with a Bachelor of Arts degree, but he got his MBA from Whitewater. And he retired after 40 years with RTR, Cooper Power, and Eaton Corporation. He's been a member of the Historical Society here in town since 2012 and has been the president of for their organization since 2020. So he's been president of an organization for a very long time. And as we, as a club, sometimes have had to have people repeat. It's a lot of work to run an organization, do the fundraising, make sure that you're complying with everything else. And for most of us that have been presidents, we all can kind of assimilate to that. His hobbies is historical research and collectibles. And I think it's collectibles of antique bottles and things. I did read some of the old Mukwonago historical things that have occurred back from the late 1800s. Some of the articles that Henry has produced himself, and it gives you a quick snapshot of both the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, with no further ado, I'd like to ask Henry to come on up.
Well, good morning and thanks for the invitation. Diana, before we get too deep into this, you're gonna recognize some of these slides.
Maybe, but that's okay.
So 2024 was a great year for the museum. We got a lot of things accomplished. And we've got more work to do. A little bit on the history of our society. Our mission is to collect and preserve artifacts, documents, photographs of Mukwonago and the surrounding area. We don't just cover Mukwonago Village, we cover the town, Vernon, a little bit into Ottawa, Township, Genesee, and even down virtually to Waterford, filling in for where there are not, unfortunately, there's not historical societies similar to ours. We started in 1967. The impetus was the Grutzmacher Native American collection. Arthur was a local, it was a longtime dealer. The collection is on loan, long-term loan from the library. There was also money given and a house was donated to the village, which was used in part to finance the purchase of the red brick house, which is the founder's Sewell Andrews house that he built and finished in 1842. It's the oldest brick building in still standing in Waukesha County. We have 4 officers and 6 additional board members. The board members, the officers are reelected on a cycle basis. The president and officers are every year. The directors are staggered, so they're on 3-year terms. So we don't have a mass turnover. There's always continuity. Some of the highlights: we had over 4,500 volunteer hours last year. A lot of that had to do with the renovation of the Native American room, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. We had about 850 people come through the museum last year. Also, I'm counting people that we touched through outside presentations and other events such as here today. It was down a little bit from the year before because one of the big school tours that we normally get was canceled due to the weather. We added through a pretty effective membership drive, 24 members, so we're up to a whopping 59 members. We've got some work to do. Yet Eagle, for instance, has over 300 members of their historical society. I don't know how they do it. I've talked to them. They won't tell us. Committee work that we had done last year. Obviously, the Native American room, that's about 95% complete. My wife and I are going to go down to Milwaukee to look at a display case that should be the last one we buy. It's a used one, but it's so cheap we can't pass it up, and it's beautiful. Membership drive, which I mentioned, and we also updated our bylaws. It wasn't much in terms of changes, but it's always good about every decade to look at the bylaws. We increased donations through a drive for the NA room update. I have to say, getting the board oriented to spend more time on fundraising, that was probably one of the real culture changes that we've been able to achieve. So a little bit on the Native American room. How many of you have been to the museum in the last year? Please, it's going to be a real experience if you haven't been there ever, or if you haven't been there in a few years. The NA room used to be populated by a lot of little, not little, but heavy as heck oak bakery cases, jewelry cases. You had to, for someone my age, it was kind of hard. If you wanted to look at the stuff, you had to look at the artifacts. The lighting was poor. Now everything is out at waist to eye level. You can see everything. It's beautifully labeled. We have interpretive panels that we created in the last year. See that QR code up in the corner? A number of the panels the visitor can put their phone to the QR code and get additional information or even a video. For instance, that one is on flint knapping, which is the making of arrowheads. And there's actually an authentic video showing how to make an arrowhead. Now, one of the other objectives, in addition to creating a much more exciting experience for our visitors, was to be more respectful, bring us into the 21st century with the tribes. And several weeks ago, we had Forest County Potawatomis in pending some repatriation of some items for the second time in the last year. It's a process, as Abby at the library sure knows. And they were very complimentary. That was one of our concerns, is how well we could mesh with their culture. Now, I will say this, this particular tribe is very close to the vest. We'd asked them several times, would you like to give us some additional information on how to display items? And that they're not interested in that. In fact, we're trying to get them interested in building like a 3/4 scale wigwam. The Potawatomi homes were dome shaped. There were hundreds of them in this area back in the 1830s when the settlers arrived. We're going up to their cultural center, and I'm sure we can figure out a way to get them to participate in that. Every Sunday that we're open, we have a presentation. Most of it is original research that I and other members do. And some of these stories are amazing. How many of you knew there was a bicycle company in this town? We have a bicycle made in Mukwonago in the museum. We found it about 5 years ago, did the research. I won't bore you with all the details, but this bicycle company that was founded by Asa Craig of the Craig family of the farm produce family. He was quite a Renaissance man. He had his fingers in a lot of different things. He actually went bankrupt personally as part of this bicycle factory. It didn't last very long, but they made top of the line bicycles in a factory that was about where Horn Feeds is today. Another story, Charles Dewey. Some of you probably remember Charles Dewey. Did one on him. And in the last week, I found out his father owned a dairy here in town, which I didn't know when I did the research. And just as an aside, we were endowed with a huge research collection in the last week on the histories of all the little farm dairies, creameries, cheese factories, condenseries in Waukesha County. So we're going to be digitizing that and putting some of it on our website. Yes, sir.
Is A.H. Craig a relative of the existing Craig
Yes.
family?
Yes, it would be Bob's. Must be great, I think.
Okay, I know Wayne. Right, I know Wayne.
The one that was most heavily attended was the Phantom Lake history. And I didn't do that one. I don't know if there's any correlation.
When I looked at that, that was very interesting in terms of that Phantom Lake hotel, all the stuff. It's phenomenal. If you go to that your website there.
My wife and I do tours of on our pontoon boat on the lake. And it takes about an hour and a half. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of history there. I don't want to drone on here, but there was actually a future candidate for president of the United States that was raised over there on or what is now the property of the YMCA. And he was almost drowned when he was a kid out there, but he was saved by a freed slave after the Civil War that worked for him. On and on it goes. You can go on our website if you want to hear personal interviews of various people in the town. A lot of history, oral history that you won't find in any history book. Some of the collaborations and partnerships we do, obviously, we're an affiliate for the State Historical Society. We're also, have joined two consortiums, one for the Walworth County Group of Historical Societies and another for Waukesha County. This allows us to, exchange best practice and also to, look at some overall cooperative efforts. For instance, we're looking at what we could do for the 250th birthday of the nation next year. We also work closely with our webmaster, Summit Web Services, and Katie Baker of Treble, who I think she's still on the committee for the Phantom Junction. We work with her as well. Okay, a little bit on some of the things we did for outreach. We're always doing school tours. We did Rolling Hills last year, did Clarendon, et cetera, the high school. Jason Strickler, the history teacher and assistant football coach. We have sort of an alliance with him. In fact, April 4th, his history class is coming in for another tour. And also the history club in the future. We had a senior bus tour from Janesville. We had about 35 people. They all had a good time. Some of them couldn't go to the second floor. We're not obviously handicapped, reachable in certain areas. The building is old, so we have a number of step ups and step downs, and it's really tough. People with walkers can get around on the first floor if they're careful with help. Going upstairs on what would not be code, I'm sure, the 1840 stairwell. It's pretty tough. We had the Eagle Historical Society Board of Directors last fall. Our ice cream social is every year. That's a big event. That event has grown every year to where we were up to like 400 some Sundays of root beer floats last year. I was personally responsible for probably 3. The Victorian tea, which is limited by our space. The board wants to have it in the museum, but as a result, we're landlocked to about 25 visitors. We've been raising our fee, but we're still way below other towns, museums where they have events such as this. That's another culture change we have to make in that regard. Now, again, right now we're going to be celebrating our 120th anniversary of the incorporation of the village. Next year, we're going to be celebrating the 190th of the first land grant. And this photo is actually the parade that occurred right in the square in 1936 for the 100th anniversary of the village. Not as a legal entity, but as a community of people. The 76 illustration from the Mukwonago chief shows that we had a commission for the 200th birthday. And actually the year before, in 1975, we were already having events in the town. And the theme for 2026 is called Two Lights for Tomorrow, and it comes from is it the Paul Revere, 2 if by land, 1 if by sea, or vice versa. I can never remember. So we're looking at some events right now, and they'll probably be in cooperation with other surrounding historical societies. There might be like a history month where there's all kinds of things you can do in terms of contests, in terms of your a card punched, getting a prize or something, depending on how many museums you visit during that time. Okay, our project that we're working on right now is we're getting quotations to have the log cabin surfaced the outside. If you go by it, if you come from the south, it looks pretty good. The north and west sides, which tend to hold moisture, have really started to deteriorate. And the plan right now is to side it over with beveled wavy cedar siding. It would first, we put vertical furring strips, would seal it to arrest any decay, and the experts say we can get another 25 or 30 years out of the building. Now, I've had a number of people comment, well, it's not a historical building. Why the heck do you care? Well, the simple answer is it's a symbolic representation of Sewell Andrews' original trading post. It was on roughly that site. It was logged. We have a firsthand account from a guy that in 1899, that when he was 16 had worked for Sewell. His first night in Mukwonago was to sleep in a cubby slot, some sort of closet or something in the original log cabin trading post. That was the commercial hub of a 15-mile or more radius around here. This is the trading post is what really got this area's commerce going. Sewell made a lot of money very quickly. And he was able to build that grand, for the time, brick home. It's used as our gift store and gives us an opportunity to talk about what trading posts did in those days. We've had 2 experts come and look at the building. One is a guy by the name of Alan Pape, who was instrumental in identifying, locating, and restoring quite a few of the old buildings at Old World, Wisconsin. And he was the one that suggested the initial fix. We also had Steve Elsbender, who is director of the architectural commission for Washington County, come as well. And we're lucky to have those kinds of allies. We're looking at something like this to get extra expertise. So I already described the process. Now, the other thing that's important to note is when log cabins got long in the tooth in the 1800s, oftentimes they were sided over. And this is the kind of siding that out in the primitive areas like we were at that time, this simple rough cut cedar or other wood would be the kind of siding they would use. So this is not necessarily a departure and from what might have occurred before the Sewell Andrews trading post was actually torn down. And also it does simulate the square log look of a square log cabin. This is what's called the wilderness log cabin designs, which was basically a creation in the 1940s or 50s with Davy Crockett and that sort of thing. It's a Hollywood design. It's not a very good design because it does trap water with the round logs. Okay, we believe it's a win-win for the village and for us. It would allow us to extend the life of the current asset. We're willing to pay for it ourselves. The village has a placeholder in their capital budget next year to buy a new cabin. Who knows where we're going to be next year? Talks of recession, it's up to 40% probability by some accounts. Who knows? We'd like to get it done this spring, although that's probably a little aggressive. We'll probably do it in stages if we get approval. By our lease agreement, the village has to approve repairs even if we effect them. We also are going to add electrical service. We could put refrigerator and freezer in there. We can get what's called a Mitsubishi split AC and heating unit. Doesn't cost that much. Our docents that are in there won't be mummified by the end of the Sunday afternoon when it's really hot. And so we think certainly under 25, we're hoping under 20, we can get all this done.
20,000.
Yeah. And the electrical contractor and the builder is doing this only on material cost. They're giving all the labor gratis. So that's our plea. We have this on various social media. So thank you for your prior support. The village was very supportive this year. They put in a new carpet in the Indian room when we had it tore down to replace everything. Ron put a new sidewalk in, so we didn't have anybody break a hip. That was really starting to look rough. And Ron Bittner is always creative, and one of the things I've been haranguing him on was we always have to have our gutters cleaned. Because leaves get in them. So he cut the trees down. Another way to do it, I guess. No, in all seriousness, several of those were pretty rough. So don't tell Ron I said that. I've already told you that.
You're on camera. I don't have to say anything.
Okay, now you can, because you know the answer to this. Any idea where these two buildings were in Mukwonago?
That building that's on the northwest corner of the interchange here. You know, where, help me guys.
Oh, next to the coffee shop, the
Yes.
Mukwonago house?
Yes.
That's a good guess, but it's wrong. In all fairness, I didn't know where this was either. This photograph appeared on eBay last fall. And I ended up pursuing it because it had detailed contemporary writing on the back saying this is the Greeley store, and the actual photograph is clear. This was the Greeley store. That was Perry Camp's stagecoach in.
Or which is where?
It's on that triangle
Oh, where the
where the Walgreens is. Now, I don't know if there's anybody that remembers, the Greeley store survived till fairly recently in the last few decades, whenever it was known as the Green Lantern Bar or something.
in relation to Pete Greeley and the Caldwell.
Yeah, it's all part of the Greeley family. In fact, I just found out the Greeleys had a dairy in Beulah as well. So they were in commerce for a long time. So as a history nerd, this was a fantastic acquisition. Another one of our projects that's been ongoing is we've digitally preserved over 2,000 photos. And it's a great resource. And now we've got to organize them a little better. We had photos that were taken, which we didn't know what they were, taken with being able to, like from this angle, showing the front of the building with the pillars. And we had no clue where it was. But we had no photos that showed the building. That hotel was built, finished in 1842, the same year that Sewell Andrews' house was built. And in the past, I was always envisioning that area was probably trees or nothing there when Sewell moved into his new home. But in fact, that hotel was there. So we had a number of plank roads that came through here. So when people were going west, they stopped in Caldwell at the Jesse Smith Hotel, the Stockman Inn, the white building that's right down next to the swim hole there. It's scheduled for being tore down. The Mukwonago house was like 1844, I think. So we had 4 or 5 stagecoach inns. And what's interesting about the photo, this one clearly shows that second floor, no railings. Would that meet code today? Well, one of the reasons was they could pull up the stagecoach and they could unload the luggage for people that were staying on the second floor. So I don't know, I could talk all day, but that's a heck of a photograph. It's fine. And there's about 30 people here, so there was something going on. Kids, adults, there's buggies there. There is no stagecoach unless that's one there. I can't remember. It's clear enough.
Might have been Midnight Magic.
Yeah, early version, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. It's always fun. There's always something new that's old at the Red Brick Museum. We're not a static organization. We keep changing exhibits, that sort of thing. Okay,
Going to the website, looking at all the different photos, like for Troy Center and Eagle, and you've compiled not only Mukwonago, but there's so many others. We've done some projects with the Y Camp up at Vanna Lake.
yes,
It's amazing when I look back, or when I saw yesterday, how some of those buildings, the structures and everything else was still apparent 10 years ago. And even some of the tented cabins. Like when we would run events and that, and then it helped them erect those, they were still being used, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
For that presentation that Ruth Tozer did, she was able to get into the archives of Phantom YMCA. And they have stuff back to the formation of the place. So the photos that were in that presentation were fantastic. They went right back to the beginnings of prior to 1900. That's, as I understand it, the oldest continuously operating YMCA in the US.
When did the railroad come through?
Interesting question. If you look on the town website, and I have to talk to somebody there, they claim it came through in 1851 and saved the village. That's absolutely wrong. It came through in 74, I think, somewhere in the 71 to 74. What happened was the Milwaukee Beloit Railroad was formed with obviously those 2 points. And there was a big bond sale, and many of the people, largely farmers who wanted to get their wheat at that time, it wasn't dairy, it was mostly wheat to Milwaukee. They invested, some of them actually mortgaged their farms and bet on this railroad coming through. And there was fraud and other things. Byron Kilbourne was involved, and he was a crook. Hope there's no Kilbournes in here. And so it failed, and as a result, it caused a severe recession in the water, or in the next county, Walworth, thank you, and this area. Now, they got as far as producing or building a roadbed for part of the tracks. That roadbed never came to use in the 1850s, but when the Milwaukee Electric Railway came through, the interurban came through in 1907, they built their tracks on that roadbed. The railroad that came here in the 1870s was called the Wisconsin Central. That's now the Canadian National or whatever, the one that crosses, it blocks Bayview about 5 times a day or whatever. It's very heavily trafficked. That's the one that started in the 1870s. So
the Red Brick Museum is open on Sundays.
okay, good point. I did send around our events calendar.
Oh, great.
We want to be open more. We are actually open more by appointment. In fact, we've got a number of tours in the next few weeks. Our grand opening is the second Sunday in June for the Native American renovation. We're open the second and fourth Sundays from June through September. One of the reasons we want to get heat in the trading post is so we can have it open on some special dates during the winter, that sort of thing. And it's all a matter of resources. So anyone that's accepted one of these schedules is now an honorary docent and will be helping us at the museum. So hope to see you all at the opening. We do need more. Seriously, we do need more docents. Like any volunteer organization, 6 to 8 people to do most of the work. Yes, sir.
You said you would open for groups by appointment. How big is the group have to be? Do you have a minimum?
Well, we'd like to see 6 or more.
Okay.
We've done less than that. We've had some amazing impromptu family reunions associated with some of our presentations. The Craig family had basically a family reunion. The Moore family has been there. The Grutzmachers, we had Grutzmachers coming from Oregon for one of our presentations on the Grutzmacher brothers. So,
And then to join the Mukwonago Historical Society, that you said there were 50 some members. or
yeah,
something?
it's $10. Right?
It's $10 a year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Now,
Okay.
families is 15. I think I don't have the scale in front of me. You can also join for life. I think that's 200. So you can plan out how long you think you're gonna live, figure out if it's makes.
The math doesn't work for a lot of us.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
Awesome.
So Henry, thank you. And then we also want to share that we will be donating the money to get 25 children inoculated against polio in your name. That's one of our efforts that the Rotary Club
Thank
does.
you very
So
much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, any other business items? If not, we'll do the four-way test. As we leave this meeting, we go back out into the world of life and work of the things we think, say, and do. Let us remember to ask ourselves first. Second is if they're all concerned. Third, will it build goodwill or better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Oh, the bell. Have a great week, everybody. Pancake breakfast tickets, pancake breakfast tickets.
Yeah.
Thank you.